Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on over to a special episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. This here is Ethan Hertweck. Now, a lot of you probably haven't even heard his name before. I mean, me personally, I remember hearing his story, but I couldn't have told you who he was when I first saw this. And it blew my mind because what this man did was absolutely amazing. He gave his life on December 4th of 2023 fighting over in eastern Ukraine. As a matter of fact, he did such a freaking phenomenal job in that particular firefight. Marine veteran killed in Ukraine fought 12 Russians in last stand. Now, he was officially listed as missing in action following this firefight. What he did is actually absolutely amazing. I've read over the witness statements from what took place that day. Over 95% of his unit was decimated in this gunfight. After the gunfight, his body was missing. It was in enemy hands because their position got overran. And just recently, back in December, the Russians and the Ukrainians were going to exchange 500 bodies. Afterwards, when they exchanged the bodies, the Ukrainian government reached out to families of people who were listed as missing in action, asked them to submit DNA, and Ethan's family did exactly that. They submitted DNA, and just recently they had been notified that after over a year of waiting, their son is going to get home to the United States of America. That in general, within itself, is a story. When I tell you about the gunfight, when I tell you about what this dude did, and when I tell you that he's finally coming home and being laid to rest and the actual story behind it, this is like quite literally the American people have rallied behind this today. It took, you know how long it took? I'm going to wait till we get there. I'm going to save the best part to the end. I'm going to save the best part, which is the American people's spirit, until the very, very end of this. Ladies and gentlemen, if we take a look right here at the article from Task and Purpose, Ethan was killed just 11 days before he was scheduled to come home. This was supposed to be his last mission. He fought in a lot of different places. As a matter of fact, he was even part of Chosen Company. The flag that I have up over on the wall behind me that's signed. As a matter of fact, a bunch of the guys in the unit knew of him, and were able to talk about him and provide details of the different things that he did. It is astonishing to me when I started talking to the guys about how much stuff didn't make it in that Task and Purpose article about Ethan. I'm going to tell you about it. He started off going over there, and he kind of didn't really know what he was getting himself into. Before he actually went over and actually started training the Ukrainians, he was on the border and between Poland and Ukraine, helping people get across, carrying their things across for them, making them sure these women and these kids were not getting human trafficked. He was literally taking care of them. So we can start there. Then he went on to here. And he started fighting, and boy, did he fight. On his very last day, I'm going to walk you through this of what happened. On his very last day, he was manning a foxhole or a bunker. He's inside of the bunker. They're being attacked under heavy, heavy fire. Ethan makes the decision after he sees one of his brothers getting struck in front of him, struck down in combat. He makes the decision to leave the bunker to go out and help retrieve his brother's body. He's still alive at the time. They grab him, they start running back towards the bunker. And Ethan ends up taking a round right over top of his plate, his chest plate, as they're dragging this guy back into the bunker. Takes a round right over top of his chest plate. And he goes down. His brothers came out and they grabbed him. And they took him back into the bunker. So they fought their butts off and they got him back into the bunker. Once he got in the bunker and they patched him up, and he's sitting there on the ground, still bleeding and everything else, and the gunfight's still going on, this man took it upon himself to start treating his brothers that were in the bunker with him, because they had essentially turned it into a casualty collection point. And so Ethan's on the ground after just being shot in the chest, being drugged from going and trying to save one of his buddies. And now he's on the ground inside of the foxhole. And he's crawling around and he's taking care of his friends that are also wounded. So wounded Ethan is taking care of other wounded service members. Afterwards, he's treating them. And all this is going on. Russians go over and they attack his position hard. And they end up overrunning it. The figure I got told was 98%. I believe it was 98% of his unit was either killed or wounded. That is an absurd number for that firefight. 98%. Of course, they got displaced. Who was left was left. They got displaced. As you saw in the Task and Purpose article, they knew he was dead. But because they didn't have his body and he was wounded, he was listed as missing in action. In October, when the Russians and the Ukrainians agreed to do everything, it was perfect. We didn't know if Ethan's body was going to come back or not. We didn't know who a lot of the people were going to be on that sucker. So yeah, they did the DNA testing. Family got the DNA testing. And it was a match. His family goes over to Ukraine and they're doing their absolute best to try to do everything. Tomorrow morning, there's actually a memorial service for him in Kyiv. After that, he's going to return home. He's getting buried on March 10th in California. A couple days ago, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, crying his eyeballs out. Somebody that was really good friends that served with Ethan over inside of Ukraine. And he's panicking because his family's in Ukraine. And he's trying to handle everything over here in the States for his family. And he finds out that the burial is going to cost a decent sum of cash. I stopped broadcasting that day. I didn't show up and do the morning broadcast. Instead, I talked to him, got on the phone with him, and tried to calm him down. You know, he's got to go through and relive all this stuff. And I go, you know what, bud? It is money. We're going to get this taken care of. And he goes, dude, it wasn't like you did anything crazy over there. And I'm like, listen to the words that just came out of your mouth. And I want you guys to think about this, think about this from the soldier perspective, that those acts of bravery have gone on so much over there that those guys are literally desensitized to it. That like the actions of what Ethan did that day, which by the way, he also killed 12 Russians in the midst of all that. And so they just look at it and they go, it's another day. It's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. He got to serve about a year in the Marines before they found out that he had some type of a blood condition that wouldn't allow him to serve anymore. So he got honorably discharged, but he still wanted to serve. He didn't qualify for, though he is a Marine, he did not qualify for a lot of different benefits that people who serve an entire contract typically get. So there's issues getting him into a veteran cemetery. There's issues getting him his veterans benefits. There's issues all across the board there. And his family's going broke over in Kyiv, running around in circles. And they just didn't have the money to get him buried. So I believe it was Tuesday this week, I got informed that if they didn't have the money figured out by Friday, that, well, they're going to have to get his body cremated. The Ukrainian government would take care of flying his body all the way back here to the United States, but what they wouldn't do is they wouldn't take care of the burial. That fell on his family. But they did offer to cremate his body, that his family could at least carry him home that way and have him. So him and I wargamed, and we came up with a plan. Said, you know what? Americans are going to take care of this. And y'all did not let us down, not one tiny bit. Not one tiny bit. A little bit of confidence from a buddy of mine. Took my charge card, threw it down on his funeral plot, and sent it. Tried to set up a GoFundMe for him, but the GoFundMe was giving issues because it had to be money going towards me, which was technically for his family's burial of Ethan, and it was just a huge pain in the butt. So GoFundMe didn't even do a very good job. They said it's going to take 2 to 5 days at least to process. And that's today I got that answer. Today they gave me that answer after I had been in contact with him over and over and over about this. And if that dude is not going to leave a fallen comrade, well, neither are we. And we didn't. Today over on Twitter, I put this post out and I explained it to people. Said, take a minute and read this. Read what this man has done. And went through and I explained it. Now, I haven't looked at this in couple hours. I was trying to fix my microphone issues and everything for you guys. The sucker's been viewed more than 30,000 times. I think Twitter is trying to suppress me a little bit right now for whatever reason. That's fine, because I know there's multiple accounts with like 1 million-ish followers that ended up retweeting this. That's fine. There was a link that went over to my PayPal account so that you can donate for Ethan. And it's going to be linked in the description below, and I'm going to explain to you why in a sec. And you go there and you can donate money. All the additional money is going to his family because they've gone broke, running around and trying to take care of their son and get him home where he belongs. I want you to hear this when I tell you that within 2 hours, hear me out now, within 2 hours of that post going up, we had already had over $1,000 donated, and I haven't even looked anymore because I'm just in shock. I got a phone call. I got a message from somebody I know over on Twitter. Link me up with somebody else. And that individual is going to be covering everything. We did it. I don't have to worry about going in massive amounts of debt. And the goodwill of the American people took care of this veteran and hero and are going to make sure he gets buried. But I think what's even more amazing about it, I don't have complete and total confirmation yet. I'm going to get that a little bit later. He's doing his due diligence, which everything will check out. But now his family is actually going to be afforded other things, plane tickets and things like that, to be able to come back home. They did. They've been running themselves broke, trying to take care of the situation. And it's amazing that the American people finally came through. If our government fails, ladies and gentlemen, you guys stepped up. You guys are the ones that stepped up. And I would encourage you to continue, because I don't know how much debt they're in over this, but I know it's not cheap what they've been doing. Go look up trying to get a freaking flight over there and see how much it costs. Not to mention the amount of time they spend on the ground. They've got to have hotels. They've got to eat. They've got to freaking do everything. And oh, by the way, they're not working. This personally is a story that the American people should flipping rally behind. That even though you might not agree with what's going on, you might not agree with our government giving money, you might not agree with a lot of things. Dude, I had people that donated that would shoot me a message, like people that have argued with me on this before, about the United States giving money over there, and they threw money in there. I cannot express to you guys how much I love you, how much I appreciate you for every single thing that you have done for this community, that you have done for his family. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what the Speak the Truth community is about. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.